Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us for Library Talk and everything else. I am your host, DJ JC, and I am really excited because today I have my best friend back in the studios, Mr. Rick Nahara. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again on the
You
show.
know, every guest that I've had, Rick, has been just such a wonderful, wonderful person to come in and talk about what they do, the topics that we discuss. And I'm really excited that you're here. November 21st, next week is already Thanksgiving. We're going to talk about that and so many other things. So thank you so much. We're going to go to a music break. We're going to play a little Michael Jackson to get us started on this Thursday morning. So you're listening to Library Talk and everything else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. Again, good morning. Thank you so very much, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Library Talk and everything else. I'm your host, DJ JC, a little Michael Jackson to get us started on this November 21st. A couple of announcements, but before we do that, Rick, you were telling me there's some trivia about the song Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. Please share that with us because you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah. Annie, are you okay? The line, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Annie, are you okay? Comes actually from the doll that you do CPR on.
Okay.
So that song, believe it or not, it has a lot of like those type of like I guess you can I don't know how to say it, but it's got the first verse it talks about how this person gets shot or something.
Yes.
And the second verse actually, talks about how they're working on the victim. So Annie, are you okay? Comes from that that doll that you do CPR on. So the first thing you do before you do CPR, because obviously you don't want to do CPR on a live person, right?
But might be okay.
But yeah, the first thing you got to do is ask them, "Are you okay?" But that doll's name is Resuscian.
Oh.
So resuscitation Annie.
Oh,
So
okay.
he says, "Annie, are you okay?" And we see it in the second verse where they're actually working on the victim and stuff. But yeah, that comes from that.
I've never broken down the song to that level, but
it's-
only a person that would know, some of those things like "Annie, are you okay?" And I don't know what the reference is
Yeah,
in
so
the song. What it's
I think
about.
that's what it's talking about. I think it's talking about how the victim gets shot or something happens, or there's a crime against that victim, and then the second verse it talks about how something you see that the paramedics walk in, or it makes reference to that. It doesn't necessarily say that, right?
Yeah.
But he's saying like, "Annie, are you okay?" And I'm sure it has maybe some other meanings to it, but
It's a great song.
Yeah.
And we are limited on our time.
Yeah, no, but yeah, that's basically the first thing you want to ask is, are you okay before you do CPR on somebody? See if you get a verbal response or a physical response or anything like that.
I'll tell you, I was at Applebee's years ago. I was at Applebee's, and I had just taken a CPR class. And somebody started doing, whether it's the universal sign for choking or whether it was whatever, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I am not a trained professional like you or like the people that you work with. I had just taken the class, Rick, just gotten certified.
So you're ready to jump
I
into
was
action.
ready to jump into action, but I stood up very slowly rather than jump into action because it's not something that we deal with every day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but if you're joining us, I am so appreciative of you being here with us. And I'm talking to Rick Nakata, my best friend. He's the deputy fire chief for the city of Brownsville, and he's been on the show before. So back by popular demand, he is here.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Back by public.
Yeah. And so we want to continue a conversation because he was here a couple of weeks back, and we'll talk about that. But there are some announcements that we need to kind of get out of the way. And one of them is that this is our last show. This is our last show for the semester. There are some shows that are happening next week, and I ask you that you please support not only this show, but also the other shows that are produced by Vaquero Radio. And I do want to thank the student media and UTRGV Vaquero Radio for their support. And so this is our last show for the semester because we would normally have a show next week. Well, we are going into the holidays, and then the semester is pretty much over after that, with finals coming in the December. And so our show should return back in January, either late January, mid-January. So be looking out for not only the return of this show, but all the other ones and some new ones that could possibly come up. And I, Rick, am looking forward to next year's shows as well. I have some guests that I have lined up. I know I want you to come back on the show, talk about something else.
I'll be back.
And I have, ideas to bring in an academic advisor. I have ideas to bring back freshmen because I want to talk about the freshman experience. I want to talk about about gaming. I want to talk about books. I want to talk about information literacy. So I have a lot of plans, and so we're just going to build from there. So it is our last show for the semester. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for being here. If you were a listener from day one, I really, really appreciate you being just part of the show, because you are considered part of the show, because you've been such strong supporters. And my guests, I have had such wonderful guests, and I'm going to bring them back, and possibly new guests. And so I'm really excited about that. And so some of the shows have already been uploaded onto the UTRGV Vaquero Radio YouTube channel, and Rick, our show from last time has been uploaded, as well as some of the other ones, and check it out. I mean, there's some other shows from the other programming that goes on here at UT Vaquero Radio. And so we're really excited that you're supporting us, that you're listening, and just continue helping us out and continue supporting the show. So last week we talked about holidays. Last week we talked about holidays, and I actually want to talk to you about the holidays, because you and I have known each other for several years.
I love them.
I know. Isn't this such a wonderful time of year, Rick?
Yeah.
Isn't this such a great time of year? You know, next Thursday, we're not going to worry about what we eat. Just eat whatever you want.
Eat whatever you want. Be with the family. I mean, all diets and all that go out the windows and stuff.
But by the wayside. So we're really looking forward to that. So I want to ask you, Rick, and if you are listening for the first time, thank you so much for discovering the show. You want to go back to listen to them. As I mentioned, you have some episodes that you can go back to listen to on Vaquero Radio's YouTube channel. But if you are listening to the show for the first time, we do ask a research question, and we'll get to that in a little bit, because first I want to know, and I already do because he's my best friend, but I want him to share some of his holiday traditions with all of you.
Yeah, holiday traditions in my family, I guess. I mean, we love Thanksgiving. We love spending time with the family. Christmas time, same thing. But yeah, I think what we do every year is we usually do a Thanksgiving lunch, early dinner with my family, and usually the following day. It used to be later on in that day, but we want to spend time, equal time with families, or with our family. So what we do is we do one full day with my family and then one full day with my wife's family. And that'll either rotate, on Thanksgiving, it'll either be her family or my family. And then the following day, or, I think this year we're going to do Saturday with her family. Okay. So it's always a fun time. I love her family. We all get together just laughing and joking.
It is. I actually know them as well.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I've been a part of some of those.
So you know how fun they can
have
be.
been part of some of those parties.
And
so you were telling me that you have a son that is a student.
Yeah. So Jacob, my middle son, he's at Sam Houston State University. Mm-hmm. He's going for visual effects and animation. He went at full force, so he's going, taking as many classes as he wants or needs to get it done. But yeah, first he called me saying he'll be traveling Thursday. So we were kind of bummed out about that, because he would be here right as we're making stuff. I know. But then he called us back, and he's like, hey, Dad, I can actually travel Wednesday, because Wednesday would be a reading day, and I can do that anytime. So we were like, great, we're excited. Okay, travel early Wednesday. And then he called back, and he's like, hey, I can go Tuesday if you guys want. And I'm like, if we want, of course we want. Yeah, come on in. So he's going to be traveling Tuesday early morning, getting here maybe mid-afternoon.
The same thing for my daughter. She's a student at UTSA studying architecture, and she was going to come on Thursday. But due to some scheduling things that got resolved, she's coming on Tuesday as well. And so, yeah, and, we spoke about Ricky last time you were on the show, and you have a beautiful daughter as well, and Jacob I've known as well, and I cannot wait to see his name up on a Disney Pixar.
Me either. Yeah, that would be like. I'm obviously proud of my son. He 4th generation firefighter here with Brownsville Fire Department, and he's coming up on a year. My little girl's a dancer, and now she just made the move to, or she's still dancing, but she made the move to. Sports. So she was in volleyball. Now she's going to be in soccer and basketball and stuff. And last night we saw her performance. So, but yeah, to see your son's name up on a movie or a credit or something. Yeah, that's so extremely.
We're looking for that as well.
Yeah,
so
our parents,
He is in his second year.
Second year. Yeah, he started his second year. He did a little bit of the, I don't know what you call it here in high school, but the dual enrollment.
Yeah.
He did a little bit of that. So he had some credits going in to college. They accepted all his credits, and he had to take a couple of like core stuff before he got into the actual visual effects program. But right now he's loving it.
I know you showed us some of his work last time.
Oh,
and I was
yeah.
like, wow, that's amazing. Wow, it really was. And, you know, I had no idea my daughter Miranda wanted to study architecture. And she also was like surprised. Like,
sometimes
wow.
our kids, they come up with these crazy, like all of a sudden out of the blue, it's like, hey, I want to do this. Like my daughter, for instance, hey, I want to play volleyball and basketball. And we're like, well, yeah, and we're going to support them, right? We're going to support them 100%. But yeah, it's like, hey, okay, where did you get that from? And it's all influenced by friends. And
exactly.
teachers,
And it's a good time of age for them to explore some of these different options. And I know, kind of going back to another episode of this show that we had a career counselor talking about careers, and it was a wonderful conversation as well that you can go and listen to YouTube. And we were talking about that, about our children and about us ourselves, the career choices that we make. And so that was another excellent show.
That would actually be great if you could bring on maybe, and it just hit me right now, either a freshman starting out and a senior.
That is my plan for next
there you
semester,
go.
and I think that's how I'm going to open
Great
the show.
minds think alike.
That's how I'm going to open the show next year. I want to bring in both the freshmen and the senior.
Yeah,
experience.
just to discuss about hardships and what they're going through and experience and stuff.
Because sometimes it's hard for them to adjust. I mean, your son had never been away, and now he's in Huntsville.
Oh, so I'm gonna share a quick story.
By all means, hey, Brooke, this is library talk, and the second part of this is everything else.
Yeah, so
we're here to talk about anything else.
He called us the other day, me and my wife. He calls us every night, but he calls us the other day, and he's like, "Hey, Mom and Dad," and he kind of said it under his breath while he was. But and this goes along with what you're saying about they're away and they're growing up and all this. And he says it under his breath, and my wife was like, "What was that?" And he goes, "Oh, Dad, did you catch that?" And I go, "A little bit. Well, something about." And he's like, "Yeah, I got pulled over today," and he's never been pulled over by a cop, right?
Goodness.
So he said he came up to a stop sign, and then he made sure he didn't roll it, and as soon as he took a right, the cop lit him up, right? So he's like, man, talking to himself, I didn't roll the stop and this and that. So the cop pulls over, next to him, and he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And my son, he's like, no, actually, I don't know why you pulled me over.
That's actually, yes, I believe that about Jacob.
That's him. That's him.
I know the guy.
I don't know where he gets that stubbornness from, but anyway.
Okay, and everything else.
So he goes, well, your taillights out. And he goes, I'm literally on my way to get a tail light. I knew about it, blinker, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, well, if you're on your way to go get it, I'm going to give you a warning. So long story short, he replaced it by himself, and he called me, and as he's telling us, he's like, I replaced it. It was really easy. I had to get a screwdriver, buy a screwdriver and this and that. And I'm like, man, had he been here, he'd rely on me. Can you go get it? This and that. But since he's away, I mean, he's growing up, and
that's such an interesting. I know we are gonna get to fire safety
eventually.
But this is great because my daughter also being in San Antonio, her truck got towed.
Oh yeah, I remember that story.
Dad was already on his way to go.
It's different with little girls. Well, I say little girls, but it's different with our daughters.
But no, she went to the yard to go pick it up and dealt with it herself.
Yeah, no, and they grow up, man, and that's the only way they're going to experience that independence, right? They're going to be away. They're forced to do something like that.
Because
hey, no, Dad's not going to do it. Mom's not going to do it. Grandpa, Grandma, they're not.
You're about 6 hours away from Huntsville.
Yeah, that's on a good day with a wind at their back. Yeah.
And so, that's such an interesting perspective, Rick. But they have to figure it out.
They have to figure it out. Dad and Mom aren't going to be there, and some days he's supposed to call us every night, but some days he calls, or just like last night, he texts us, "Hey, I'm real busy wrapping up,
of course,
with our finals and all that, and I'm not going to be able to call you." And we're like, "Okay, we understand."
That's great. So hopefully he he does take advantage of the opportunity to eat home cooked meals while he's here.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, he's gonna take 100% advantage of that.
And probably takes it with him as well. So this is wonderful. Thank you so much, Rick, for sharing. I really wanted to know, and I guess I already know some of your traditions because you have such a wonderful family and family in law as well. So and I know Joe and some of those other guys that are part of that. So that's awesome. So we do have a research question, and I want to get to that research question. But before we actually start addressing the research question, I want to talk about what you have seen, Rick, in some of your holiday related issues in terms of dangers and
Not
things like
family
that.
related.
No, no, no,
Oh,
no,
okay,
no, no, no,
okay.
sorry. No, dangers. But before we go and move to that, the question for today is: how does technology and training in fire service education impact firefighter preparedness and on-the-job performance? And I should have expanded on this a little bit more because you mentioned this last time we were here that firefighters also work as EMS and paramedics.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about that as well. But before we get to the research question and start delving into points of this research question, and we use the research question as a way to kind of keep the show together, kind of use it as a guide. If we answer it, we answered. If we don't, we used it as part of our episode. But I do want to talk about it, and I know I'm not laughing at it, but I know this is kind of an off topic. I didn't even prepare you for this, but what have you seen? And maybe tell us and teach us what we were doing wrong when we are lighting up our Christmas trees with so many different lights. So I want to hear some of these. things
Yeah,
that have
I
happened
mean
during
the
holidays.
first and I guess what you really got to keep in mind is sometimes there's a lot of old or phased out lighting equipment or decorations that we have in the attic, and when we talk about that, we're also talking about, well, when do you put up your Christmas lights, right? Like we're going to talk about lights, I guess, for right now. So you put up your lights maybe right now, early, maybe mid-November, so they're up for Thanksgiving and all that good stuff. But they're up there, they're getting sun worn, faded, they're getting brittle, that kind of thing. That now you start looking at exposed wiring and all that kind of stuff. Well, what they came out now with is LED lighting. Well, not
Yes,
now,
sure.
but relatively new, right? LED lighting. Those those don't burn hot at all. If you get the
Okay.
old type of lighting with the halogen bulbs and all that, they burn hot, and you can only put like 3 strands together before you overload the circuit and things like
Okay.
that. So that's one of the things that you really have to look out about is if you're going to put up lighting, put them up, early and all that, but also inspect them as you're putting them up. Make sure you don't have any frayed wires and exposed, wires, bare wires, things like that, because that is a fire hazard. If you do have those old halogen bulbs, make sure you don't put the more than the recommended strands together, and keep them away from any heat source or anything, because those bulbs do burn very hot, and you don't want to keep it next to any flammable material and paper, things like that. They are coming out with fire retardant trees and fire resistant trees and decorations and stuff. So keep that in mind. If you do have a live tree, make sure you water it. Keep it green, because those things go up quickly. And if you're putting on old lighting on that kind of tree, well, that's a bad mix, right? So just make sure you use precaution when you're putting up Christmas decorations. And I don't know if you asked about Thanksgiving and
Yes,
and
Thanksgiving,
safety on
because
that, because a lot of
times
people.
a lot of times you hear people having issues with deep frying a turkey.
Yeah, that's the other thing, and although it's delicious and it's it's
You
very
prepare that one, Rick?
juicy. I've had a taste of it. I've never prepared one, but yeah, just a couple of safety tips on frying turkeys and stuff. You want to keep it at least 10 feet away from any heat source or your house or anything. It's recommended. Obviously, you want to do it outside, not in a garage. Sometimes it might be very cold and rainy during
Yes.
Thanksgiving, and you're tempted to maybe fry a turkey in your garage or anything. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. But the first thing that you got to do is, the common mistake that we always see in the fire service is they overfill the pot with oil.
Okay.
So you want to use a little common sense. If you don't understand it, fill up that pot with water, put the turkey in, and see how much that water rises.
Okay.
And if you put too much, obviously you're going to mark it and you're going to say, okay, well, the oil is going to get filled up to this mark so the oil doesn't overflow. So now you take that out, you dry off your turkey, and that's the other thing. You want to make sure your turkey is 100% dry before you drop it into that oil, because obviously oil and water don't mix, right? So 100% dry, thawed out. You pat it down. Completely thawed out, dry. You pat it down with a paper towel. Make sure it's dry. The inside's dry. Everything's thawed. And then you drop that in, and make sure you have a fire extinguisher handy in case something happens. An ABC fire extinguisher, because that'll handle.
About that last time on our show.
Yeah, ABC will handle all types of fires. Make sure you have one close by. Do not, under any circumstance, have kids playing around that area. They can drop that oil that's burning at, I think, 400 degrees, I believe, Fahrenheit. That gets on your body, forget it. You can, that's third-degree burns, full thickness burns, that kind of thing, and turns into a real medical emergency. So,
and for as much as we enjoy the holidays, though, there is, this underlying danger for when we say, hey, just keep adding more lights to the tree. No, don't worry. The tree's looking dry. No, babe, it's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, make sure you water that tree every day. It's got plenty of water. It's always filled up to the top. You want to make sure that it's, a green for the most part. Obviously, it's cut off, so it's going to die, right? But you want to make sure you keep it as green as possible. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that shows tests that fire departments do to give
I've seen some of those.
Like kind of like, hey, watch out, right?
I think I've seen one where a
service
tree
that's what it's called.
in a room, and it catches so quickly.
Yeah, now I've
seen that video.
They have it next to like curtains and just regular stuff that you would have in your house, and you see how quickly within minutes that goes up, and it poses a danger to firefighters, because you want to make sure that you keep that, and you said it right. People will say, hey, just keep adding more lights to it. Or the other thing that we see is you add more lights, a breaker trips. Add more lights, a breaker trips. And what do? You don't call an electrician. You want to try to replace it yourself. So you start messing with the breaker box, which is don't ever do that, right? Call a certified electrician and get that taken care of, because if you have a breaker tripping in your house, that's designed to do that for a reason. It's telling you, hey, you're overloading a circuit. You can't be doing that. But people will go in there, they'll start messing with it, and the wires will get hot, and that's how you start fires, and that's, but obviously we've come a long way since then. There's very few people that do that. But yeah, I mean, on your research question, I don't know if you want to
going
pose
back to that, then, and that's, we're looking at our notes here about technology, and, technology in training and, simulation of training for firefighters, but also technology that has improved for us ourselves within our homes that we can kind of use as, like you say, knowledge of breakers, how they work. And, the fact that, okay, you know what, maybe I should be putting water on this tree, because we're just, oh man, the holidays, and then we leave, and then we come back. And I was walking into HEB yesterday, and I hadn't even noticed. And then the whiff of that
pine.
Tree, yes, I actually turned, and I was like, yeah, they're here.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that still do buy real trees.
Yes.
I mean, for the, the nostalgic or whatever you want to call it, right? But they still buy those trees. I know growing up we had a real tree. I mean, a real tree our whole, my whole childhood, right? But now man, it makes a mess and this and that. We want to keep the artificial tree, and it's good. It's a little safer. But yeah, I mean, we've come a long way. And diving into your research question, we don't fight fires the way we did 100 or maybe even 20 years ago.
And that's what the research question was, because I started delving into that. Like, what has, evolved into, modern ways to fight these fires, and the training that you guys go through?
Yeah, so there's a lot of training that now we go through, and even it's different from when I first started in the fire service to now, the training that's involved. And We have what is called thermal cameras now, where we have them built into our mask, and we didn't have that, when I first came in. So you have thermal cameras where you actually go in to the hot, zone, and you can't find that fire initially, but there's a lot of smoke. And whoever's listening out there, I think we talked about this last week. It's not all Hollywood, or Chicago Fire, and this and that, Rescue 911,
Exactly.
whatever it is.
Yes.
You don't walk into a burning house and you see it. You're walking and standing up, and you see the fire, and it's all around you, and somebody's yelling in the corner.
Yes.
It's not like that. You walk in and it's pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of you. You're calling out for your officer or your firefighter, and you have a thermal camera on you, and that'll show the hot areas, right? So you're looking for that glow. You're looking for that gray area that you see on the camera to go fight that fire. But we didn't have that so many years ago, right? So that's one of the things, advances in our breathing apparatus, that air tank that we have in, a lot of people say it's oxygen. It's not oxygen. It's regular air that we breathe. Oxygen is extremely flammable, so we don't go into burning buildings with that. So breathing air are apparatus that we carry on our back. Now there's actual accountability system with those harnesses that we wear. So you get assigned a harness. You go into a burning building. We can actually see you where you're at. If you go down, our harness has what is called a PASS device, personal accountability safety system. If they go down and they can't, whatever, that PASS device goes off. We can actually go in there and locate that individual. So a lot of advances, tracking systems. We have real life training scenarios, that we have where we study the dynamics and the behavior of fire now.
You had mentioned, Rick, in the last episode, and if you're listening to Rick for the first time, you had mentioned that your grandfather was a firefighter, your father was a firefighter, you and now your son, and the advances from when even probably you to your son have just revolutionized the way we fight fires.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if we go back to my grandpa to my son, there's way more advances, way more knowledge. That's what it is. There's more knowledge in fighting fires now. It's not. We had a saying in the fire service back in the day, and it's not. It was putting the wet stuff on the red stuff, right? It's no more putting the wet stuff on the red stuff. Now it's actually. We have, other sayings, hit it hard from the yard, and, that kind of thing, where you want to hit the fire, give it a knockdown, kind of like a 1-2 punch, right? Knock it down, then you make entry, and then you find the seat of the fire and put it out. And that seems to be a good, practice and what we're doing. But those only come through with more training. Going out there, it was more before, go find the fire, break all the windows, and now you're messing with thermal dynamics, and now you're watching fire behavior, and it's moving through, this areas. And
even as houses and homes become more technology,
Oh, yeah. I mean, we do have stricter fire codes now, we talked about the Chicago fire last time I was here, and, those were wooden roofs, from before, and now they're composite shingle and this and that. And now that allows us to actually walk on the roof and cut a ventilation hole and things like that. So there are a lot of advancements that have come in, just like we see with sports.
Yes, I mean,
now they're going on you hear a lot about analytics now.
Yeah, there's that whole analytics angle of sports and in determining different ratios of
do I go for it on fourth down?
Exactly,
and we see that with the fire service, as well, where analytics come into play. And do we want to make an interior attack? Do we want to make a defense? Do we want to do a transitional attack? That kind of thing.
It's just a wonderful conversation. I do need to take a music break. We can continue this conversation, Rick, way into past our time, but let me take a music break. You're listening to Library Talk and everything else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. Thank you so much for returning back to Library Talk and everything else. I am here with Rick Nakeda, the Deputy Fire Chief for the city of Brownsville, and my best friend. So thank you so much again, Rick, for being here. Before the break, we were talking about all this technology that has evolved from when your grandfather and your father and even you. So I want to delve into that because as part of the research question, the impact that you guys make on the community, what you guys do as, through community engagement and literally saving lives, it takes a lot. And so I wanted to ask you about the type of education, and for those that are interested in pursuing a career, pursuing, a life within fire service, what would you recommend? But let's look at the education. What is it that you do as far as the time that you guys go through, the type of training? And so if anybody's interested.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody's interested, Brownsville Fire Department is a civil service department, meaning you have to take a civil service exam. You can't just walk in and say, I want to apply for Brownsville Fire Department. It's a civil service. You have to take a test. And based on how you do on the test, we call you in. We do a agility exam on you. After that, we get you through a oral board interview. Then after that, you do a fire chief interview. Then you do a medical evaluation, all that good stuff. So there's quite a bit that goes into, at least with the Brownsville Fire Department. But yeah, when you talk about, education and training, back when my grandfather started, it's not the same as it is now. Before they would go up to College Station, they would do like a day thing and that type of training. Now,
So was it just, I want to be a firefighter today, and you just show up?
yeah, before it became a civil service department, yeah, it was like, okay, who wants to be a firefighter? And man, I can go all the way back to the potato famine, how firefighting started and who wanted those jobs, and Irish and the traditions that we hear bagpipes, right? And how does bagpipes tie into firefighting and all that? Well, back in the day, it was the Irish were getting these type of jobs that nobody else wanted. Nobody wanted to be on a fire truck and putting out fires and being on a roof and putting out fires and dangerous jobs like that. So what did the Irish bring? They bring in their bagpipe tradition, and when there was a fallen firefighter, they'd play these songs that they would play over there. But anyway, that's going way back. Yeah.
And so there's a show, Rescue Me, with Dennis Leary a couple of years back a very real show, it seemed like.
Yeah, it was a real show. I didn't, you know what, man? I don't watch a lot of that stuff. I don't know why. Maybe
because of what we talked about last time. You're going to start analyzing and overanalyzing.
Yeah, and my wife,
she
she just says, hey, it's entertaining. Just watch it, please, right? So, not that whatever, but so now what's required by the Texas Commission on Fire Protection is about 474 hours of training for the fire service, right?
Okay.
To be a firefighter. So you get hired on, you go to training through the Texas Commission on Fire Protection. They require 470 hours. What we do in the Brownsville Fire Department, we have an in-house fire academy. And that's what my son went through and what we've been doing. And we're requiring requiring.
Is that the one out there by the Port of Brownsville?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it's located at, but they go all about the county. And what we require, obviously we want to make it a little harder, so we require 560 hours. So 560 total hours of fire training is what you need to graduate with the Brownsville Fire Department Fire Academy. And the guys go out there and gals go out there and they do this, right? And they're great. They don't complain about it, and that's what we want. Now, it's not over for them. After that, what they need to do is go through paramedic because the Brownsville Fire Department is a dual response fire service. What that means is we're both firefighters and paramedics. So when you see a fire truck going out there, they're not only responding to fires, building fires, car fires, grass fires, all that stuff. What they might be responding to is a medical emergency, and every fire truck will have a paramedic on there with paramedic capabilities. You'll have a life pack on there. You'll have breathing equipment, all that stuff. The only thing we can't do on that is transport the patient, but we can get them ready for an ambulance. So when an ambulance shows up, the patient's package ready to go, and they transport them to the hospital. So once fire academy stops, paramedic school kicks in, and paramedic school, what we do is we have to put them through 1,200 hours, over 1,200 hours of training. Our in-house paramedic school, which we partnered with TEACS, Texas Engineering and Extension Services, they have a really robust fire service academy that they have. So what we do is we partnered with them, and they sponsored us, so to speak, as our paramedic affiliate, and they require 1,260 hours for a student to graduate to be a paramedic. Now, once they're done with the 1,200 hours, that just tells them, okay, now you can test, right? That doesn't say
you automatically have a job.
Yeah, same thing with the fire service, with the fire hours. You get 560 hours. Now you get a course completion. Now you got to take the state exam, right? And the state exam, 100-question test, very basic type of test, right? Paramedic, now they're saying, okay, you got a course completion after 1,260 hours. Now you're able to take the national exam. It's called the National Registry exam, much like the nursing exam. What that national exam does is it allows you, if you pass, right, it allows you to work anywhere in the nation as a paramedic. But then you got to submit for a state certification. So now not only are you nationally recognized to work as a paramedic, you're also state recognized to work as a paramedic. And that state certification is good for every 4 years. You have to recertify 144 hours. And those are broken down to clinical and classroom and all that good stuff. So I have to recertify every 4 years. I actually recertified just this year. 144 hours every 4 years, and to keep your paramedic license up. So it's a lot of training. Before, we didn't see that type of training, especially if you're not a dual response department. But there's a lot of training that comes in with being a firefighter, and we want that. That's
yeah. You guys are always prepared, always ready.
Yeah, just like you were talking before the break about how you went to go eat, and and you saw this person, and they were doing the universal sign of choking, and
didn't know what to do, even though I had just finished a CPR training class.
There was a story I have, and I tell this story because it's kind of goes along those lines. Is self-preservation, right? Like as a paramedic, you kind of, my family will call me or something. Hey, this happened to this. What should I do? And this happened to that. And what do I do about this?
You've been the recipient of many calls from me too.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's true. But I was just going through my training. I think I wasn't even a paramedic yet. I think I was an intermediate. They don't have that now. So it was in between basic and paramedic. And my wife and I went out eating, and we went to Pizza Hut, and a lady fell, and she put her hands out to break her fall. Well, what ended up happening was she put her hand down, her wrist broke, like on impact.
Oh, my goodness.
So we were actually walking out. We had just finished eating. We were walking out, and it was just me and my wife, and heard the lady fall. I turned around. My wife was like, do something, right? And that's kind of like that. Hey, you're trained, do something, right? So sure enough, I will go over there, and this lady's like crying in pain in my arm, and I'm like, okay, I need to see it. Then I tell her who I am and what I do and all that, and she shows it to me, kind of reluctantly, right? But she shows it to me, and she's like, is it broken? I go, ma'am, it looks pretty broken, but I can't tell without x-rays.
Exactly.
Right? So I asked the manager there for some boxes, pizza boxes, to make a makeshift splint. Oh, okay. Made a splint with some duct tape, and it actually, making a splint alleviates some pain. Put it in a position of comfort, made the splint. I think she was wearing a dress, so she was an older lady. I even got a tablecloth from the tables there, covered her up a little bit, gave her a little bit of privacy. And the ambulance shows by, called 911, ambulance shows up, and takes the patient, they take him, so, but it's that kind of.
Yeah, and that type of job where you have to be ready. Librarians are never going to run into an emergency like that.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Are never
Somebody might really need
research at that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Again, this is the type of comedy gold you're going to find on Library Talk and everything else. Only here. But that's awesome, Rick. We were talking about the advances of fighting fire and so forth. But I want to ask you this, and I know I didn't prep you for this, but
Seems like you haven't prepped me a
for any,
lot for any-
for any of the things that I'm throwing at you, right? But SpaceX, do they have their own fire department out there? Do they have their own type of, I'm sure that type of technology requires a certain type of fire.
Yeah, that type
Fighting.
of firefighting. So, just to give you a little bit of background, I'm gonna try to make this quick. I know we're running out of time, but
We are running out of time already. I can't believe this, Rick. Honestly.
yeah, no, we also have, because we have an airport here, we have an airport fire station, and that airport fire station is strictly trained to handle. And they're also structure firefighters, but when they're stationed there, they're strictly handling aircraft emergencies, smoke in the cockpit, a landing gear not coming down, firing the engine, that kind of thing. And they go out there with their special truck and they're fighting that fire, right? The SpaceX has their own unique, the Port of Brownsville has their own unique industrial firefighting, but they don't have their firefighters. They still rely on us as the responding agency to go out there and handle that.
So is that a new technology that you'd have to also learn about?
Oh yeah, definitely, and we want to. That's the thing, is our guys are out there, and they want to know what's on the horizon, what's in the future for firefighting, because, like I said, we've talked about it before. It was putting the wet stuff on the red stuff and fighting a regular house fire. Now you got manufacturer facilities, you got ports of entry, you got space ports, now, and that requires special firefighting techniques and technology and stuff that we need to be familiar with. Now you see Tesla vehicles. Mm-hmm. We just bought a couple of months ago, I want to say, we just bought it's called an EV blanket, an electric vehicle blanket. What that does is we put that blanket over a electric vehicle to put it out, because it's so hard to extinguish electric vehicle fires. So,
and there was one recently in Harlingen, I believe, that somebody hit I don't know, they crashed or they ran into a situation and it just caught on fire.
So what we do is Brownsville Fire Department wants to be on the cutting edge, and we want to, what's out there. So we purchased this electric vehicle blanket, and it's supposed to be a multi-use blanket, and that goes over the vehicle. Tow truck comes, they take it out to the junkyard, they leave the blanket on there, smothers fire, and then we pick it up later.
That is just
unique
stuff. How things have changed from, like you said, even from when you're training to your son.
Yeah, we didn't have that when I started.
No. We have reached the end of this program, this episode, and it always, pains me, because I love to have wonderful guests, and once we get going on these conversations, they can go in so many different directions. And Rick, I really want to thank you for being here again.
No, thank you.
And I want to bring you back, because we had talked about something off the air a little bit about, what you as firefighters and part of this community, you kind of go through, and I want to bring you back so we can kind of delve into some of those things that
100%, yeah.
You not only combat with, physically, but maybe mentally, and some of the issues that deal with that. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's always great to be on, and time flies.
It really does.
Time really flies.
So I do need to make one quick announcement here, and this is regarding the Dean of Libraries, Mr. Paul Sharp. I want to just kind of set some time aside, because he will be leaving UTRGV for Southeast Missouri State University. And the reason I bring this up is because he was Dean of Libraries for 9 years, excuse me, not about, but he was here for 9 years, and he allowed me the opportunity to pursue this vision that I had on the radio. And so thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate it. You are going to be missed, and we want to wish you the best of luck on this new endeavor that you're about to partake in. So thank you so very much for, all of you that are listening, all of you that have been supporting the show and that have been here from the very beginning. We will be taking, as I said, a break and coming back in January. And as you're talking to me, Rick, I was thinking about some other show ideas, and I am looking forward to the next season of our show. And so it has come down to the time that we have to get going, but I want to wish everybody a wonderful, not only weekend coming up, but a wonderful holiday season. If you're going to be traveling, if you're going to be just sticking around, be safe. and take heed of some of those warnings that my friend has given you. The last thing we want during this holiday season are any issues or troubles with fires or with anything. It should be a time of getting together and being happy, but just take care. All right. So we're gonna end with "American Kids" by Kenny Chesney. And are there any last words, Rick, from you as my friend and as being here on the show?
No, just for everybody to have fun this holiday season. Take care. Be safe. Keep those thoughts in mind of, have fun. We all want to have fun, but we also want to be careful with our family and just like you said, take heed of those warnings. But yeah, for everybody, have a happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and we'll catch up with you guys
Next year.
next year.
Literally next year. Muchas gracias, everybody. Have a good one.